Father God, you're the sovereign King who is over all, through all, and in all. We recognize that in your all presence you gained your all knowledge, and because you all loved us, you took your all power and chose to save us from all that would befall. And even though we didn't earn it or deserve it, we are truly loved, fully chosen, completely blessed, which is what we need more than anything, God. We know that you're the one who liberates us from neglect. You're the one who welcomes us into significance. You're the one who fortifies us against any difficulty that this life can throw us. I pray that we would desire you, that our hearts would reflect your heart, and then that if we took an honest survey of what we desired, it doesn't include you, I pray that we would muster up all the strength that we can to desire what you desire in every way and have the courage to follow you every day. Pray you would illuminate our hearts in this time for your glory in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. All right, so last time I kind of got right into the talk and didn't spend too much time in the introduction. So I'm Brian. Hi guys. Gladys. Good to see you guys. Back there is my wife Jess. So that's the best part of my introduction is her. We've been married. Today's actually our anniversary. We've been married for. We've been married for 15 years, 1 month, and 18 days. It's our 15-year, 1 month, and 18-day anniversary today. So I'm glad you clapped, because it's just as important. Guys, it gets better each year, each day. I was told to count my blessings when I was younger, so every day with my wife is a blessing, so I'm counting them. Right? I know, it's the sweetest thing ever. Okay, but anyway, she's great. We have kids, all girls, because God loves me. I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. They're Rye, Finn, Ren, and Shay, and they're awesome kids. You'll see them running around in camp if you haven't already. But yeah, so that's me, that's my fam. We live in Dallas, and I actually have the coolest job ever. I'm the minister of sports and fitness at Northwest Bible Church in Dallas. So all day long, my job is sports and Jesus, and it's the coolest thing ever to be able to talk to these guys and invest in these guys. But one of the things I like to do in my ministry is I like to tell them things that I wish I would have known when I was their age. It would have made life so much easier if I would have just known some of these things. And I'm simply doing it in a platform that someone else did for me. When I was in high school, I was an average athlete, but I had above average aspirations, and so I know that I needed to bridge that gap somehow. So a guy named Lawrence Mann trained me, and he kind of took me on. He called me his baby boy, and he took me on, and I was able to get bigger and stronger and faster, and was able to play football in college, and that turned out to be a really great thing for me. So when I came back in to Dallas, I was in this setting with a bunch of high schoolers, and a lot of them looked like me. Like, man, you could play if you just did this and that and the other. And so I trained them on how to do this, on how to do that, on how to do the other. And it has been a great platform for ministry to, train physically is of some value, but to train in godliness has value for all things, for all times. I used to train them up physically, and then they'd go off to college, and then they'd come back from college because they'd get kicked out for a number of reasons, drugs or behavior or whatever these things, grades, or other things that would just send them back. And so I realized I needed to train more than just a physical person. I needed to train a spiritual person as well. And there's just such great parallels. Are there any athletes in the room right now? People who are into sports and stuff? Yeah, so there's such strong parallels with perseverance and dealing with things like brokenness, which is one of the things that we're going to be talking about today. So when I was in high school and I did all this training, I'm going to kind of talk just a little bit about me when I was in y'all's shoes. I was the man. When I was in y'all's shoes, I was the man. So I had a time where I could do whatever I wanted to do. I didn't have a whole lot of problems with stuff. I had a ton of friends. I had a girlfriend. I had this support structure. I had this popularity thing going for me. And it seemed like I could do whatever I wanted to do. And brokenness was kind of a foreign concept to me, because I made it a foreign concept to me. I lived my life like everything was just how I described it to you, but that wasn't really what was going on. That was just the front that was out there. My parents got divorced when I was in the 5th and 6th grade, but I covered over that with extreme positivity. I always had this falling short thing that I had to deal with because my brother was he was actually those things without it being just a front. I mean, he was a genius. He was a great athlete. He was very popular, well-liked, all this stuff. And I was living inside. I had this feeling of insignificance. Like I wasn't as significant as he was, but I covered over it with a bunch of optimism. I had a hard time learning and focusing in school, but I covered over it by finding a different role in the classroom as being the class clown. And in football, with what I lacked in my athleticism and stuff, I made up for it by hitting people in the face with my face as hard as I can. And actually, that did work out for me. I played football, and in my first play, my second game of my senior season, I broke my ankle. But I didn't have a lot else to kind of fall back on. So even though I broke my ankle, I continued playing on it. I played on it for the rest of the season. And do what? I know, right? So what I did is I taped it up. I broke off the bone, and the bottom half of my bone was hanging out by my heel. But I had taped it up and played, because that's all I had.
Did you continue playing that day?
Yeah, I played. I know, it was stupid. But that was like all I had, because that was the thing that was pulling everything together. That was the thing that was holding it all together. And even though I was broken on the inside and insignificant and had all these fears and all this stuff that was going on, that was the thing that I was really, really good at. And so I had to hold on to it. And so I kept playing, and every week it hurt that much more. And then after the season was over, I tried to make it stronger without doing surgery or anything, but I couldn't do it, so they had to like pick up my bone and then screw it into my leg where it was supposed to be. But when they did that, I was kind of out for that spring, and I was a little bit behind on training for that summer, because I got to go play college football. I mean, I actually did. I didn't just kind of. So, but when I went and played, I was really behind on my training. I got recruited as a fullback because I was really good at hitting people in the face with my face and knocking them over. And I could also catch anything that was near me, and so I got a scholarship to play ball, but they were kind of hoping that I would have been a little further along with my preparation. So I went from being the man and knocking people over in high school to showing up at 2 days, and then I was going up against guys that looked like Trevor over there. I was going up against guys that were 50 to 70 pounds heavier than me. I was going up against guys that were 3 or 4 years older than me, and all of a sudden it wasn't my ankle that was broken, it was my entire person that was broken. I was playing fullback, and there were only like 5 or 6 fullbacks on our team. And they were waiting for me to like gain my weight and get my strength and learn the offense before I really contributed. But everyone got hurt. It seemed like in 2 days, every single day, someone got hurt. And the more people that got hurt, the more I had to play, until it was just me. Just this 6'3", 180-pound kid who was playing fullback against these guys. He's laughing right now. And where's Mariah? Mariah knows another one. So one of her favorite football team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I played against a guy who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers for 13 years and was like an all-pro for 10 years or something like that. And I had to go up against him and hit him every single day. And in these 2 days, this is twice a day you're doing this. For like 4 hours, I'm taking reps with the 1s, 2s, 3s, and in the rookie squad scrimmage. And I'm just like, I am at a point where I can no longer hold it together. We're 12 days in, and I've got nothing left. I can't feel anything in my body. My mind, I can't think right because I've been hitting people with my face. And so I was just at the point where I was completely broken. And when David, in his video, he shared this time when tragedy struck. And I thought about, it struck me in that moment when he said that thing. Where was I when tragedy struck me? Oh, I was crying on the floor of my dorm room my freshman year because I couldn't hold my stuff together one more second, not one more minute. Not one more day, not one more practice. I couldn't hold it together anymore, so I was broken. I was crying, and I was having a hard time because I had to call my dad and say, hey man, stock up the fridge, I'm coming home, give me a plane ticket, I can't do this thing anymore. I felt okay, I felt permission to be broken that moment because it was just me in that room. My roommate, who was also a fullback, quit on day 4. And so it was just me in there, and I had my stuff kind of halfway unpacked because all we needed was our football stuff and Band-Aids and ice. So I was halfway unpacked, and I was just like, man, you know what? My stuff's already there. I just need to pack my bags and go. And as I did that, I found this poster that I had. It was kind of a motivational poster. It had a picture of an F-18 on it because those were cool back in the 90s. And on it had this verse from Isaiah 40:31 that says, "Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will rise on wings like eagles." And I was like, I had three thoughts. The first one was, man, I feel pretty low right now. I could be raised up. I could stand for that. The second thought was, man, I feel pretty broken right now. Renewed strength sounds super refreshing to me. And the third thought that I had was, I wonder if this stuff is real. This whole Jesus stuff. I wonder if it's just positive and it's supposed to make you feel good, and one day a week you go and you come together and everyone pretends to have their stuff together, and that's good enough. Well, I wonder if it's really real. So I opened up my Bible for the first time since I'd been in Colorado, and I started reading Isaiah 40, and I was like, man, this is good stuff. As much as I could read it through the tears, and I'm like crying. I remember these tears just like falling on the thin pages of my Bible and having to be just this crazy time where I looked to God, and I felt loved by God. And anything that didn't look like love in my life, I kind of cast it out. I felt chosen by God. And anything that didn't look like being chosen in my life, I kind of cast it out. I felt blessed by God, especially when I only focused on the things that were blessings to me. And everything else that didn't look like a blessing, I cast it out. But in that moment, I was just, for the first time in my life, real with God about where I was, about what it looked like to be struck with tragedy. And I know that compared to some of y'all's tragedy, having a tough time in 2 days doesn't look like much, but that's the thing, the instrument that God used for me in my life to really usher this thing in. And what I want to do is I want to continue talking about David, continue talking about Peter, and the things that God used to usher in brokenness into their lives. But before I do that, I just want to share with you this idea that I always thought brokenness came from the evil one, like the devil, because he hates us, he wants to steal, kill, destroy. But God is sovereign over him, right? You hear the story of Job, and then Satan comes to God, he's scheming, he's doing this thing. He's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna destroy Job. I'm gonna take him out of the picture. And God's like, hey, do what you will, but you can't touch him. So Satan gets in there, messes up his life, kills all his kids, takes all his livestock, does all this stuff to him. And still Job doesn't curse God. And then Satan comes to him again. Well, you didn't let me touch him. What if I touch him? Okay, fine. Do what you have in mind, but you can't kill him. So I just think about Satan is trying to get to us and trying to cause this stuff, this turmoil in our lives, this tragedy striking us. And then I read in 2 Chronicles 15 where it talks about God is the one who puts us through the stress so that we might seek him to a new degree and find him to a new degree and see that he loves us to a new degree. God has used brokenness in our lives to highlight his blessing in our lives. But sometimes we don't see it like that. Sometimes it overtakes us. So the example of David, I'm going to get a little bit ahead. I'm going to talk about, this is a verse we're going to talk about tomorrow, but it's just such a great summary, and it's from God, so I feel like it's okay to break the rules on this. So 2 Samuel 12, 7 through 11, when the Lord, the God of Israel, says this, David, I anointed you king over Israel. I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave you your master's house. I gave you your master's wives. I gave you Israel. I gave you Judah. And if this had been too little, I would have given you even more. Why did you despise the word of the Lord by doing what is evil in his eyes? You struck down Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and you took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. Therefore, now the sword will never depart from your house because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own. This is what the Lord says. Out of your own household, I'm going to bring calamity on you. And that calamity was real for David. Crushed home, crushed heart, and crushed hope. He was broken. That's what it looked like for him. What does brokenness look like for you guys? And this was the time for David when he realized this to a degree that maybe he hadn't realized it before. And when he did it, he wrote it down in his journal, and he was being really honest with the Lord about where he was at. Maybe for the first time ever, being really honest. Are there any journal keepers out there in the room? Note takers? Okay, good. All right, y'all are awesome. You know who else was one of those people? David was one of those people. And we still have access to his journal. You guys know where to find it? It's in the Psalms. We have his journal. We have him communicating honestly with the Lord. Stuff is great. I'm on top of the world, and it's because of you, and you're awesome. I'm going to shout about how awesome you are. Next page. The cords of death are entangling me. I'm dying right now. I need you. I need your help. So these I need you, I need your help Psalms are called lament Psalms, and the first one in the Bible is Psalm 3, and that is one of your verses for today, and it goes like this here. Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Arise, Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw. Break the teeth of the wicked. For the Lord comes, or from the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. And in his brokenness, David remembers that God is his sustainer. God is his protector. God is his deliverer. God is his refuge. He remembers those things. But for some reason, when he made the decisions that he made, he didn't remember who God was at that time. In his king campaign, he was inquiring of the Lord, Lord, if I go to this city, will you deliver them into my hands? Yes, I will. He'd go to that city, the Lord would deliver them into his hands. God, if I go here, will you deliver them into my hands? Nah, don't go there today. Why don't you go over here and I'll deliver them into your hands? Okay? And he followed that. He inquired of the Lord, and then he followed the Lord, and he found himself in this place of unprecedented blessing. But then when the time came, when the kings went off to war, he didn't go off to war. He stayed at home and played Fortnite and looked for stuff to get into, right? And he found something to get into. And he didn't inquire of the Lord whether getting with Bathsheba was the right thing to do or not. He just did it on his own accord. And when he did that, he tried to get himself out of this mess, and then he couldn't get out of his mess, and he ended up sending Uriah to the front lines and basically gave him a death sentence, and that was the thing that brought about his unprecedented brokenness. And for Peter, Peter's got a story that looks like something else to bring him to this place of unprecedented brokenness. And I keep using that phrase because I want you guys to be thinking before you go to your small groups, what was your time of unprecedented brokenness for you? And you guys probably have one coming up that will be unprecedented. Even though you're broken in this place right now, there's probably something in the future that's coming. And how are you going to handle that is one thing we want to equip you for this week. But for Peter, it looked like this. It was the night before Jesus was betrayed, so he was having dinner with his guys, and basically he said, all you guys are going to disown me. And Peter, y'all remember him, the obstinate fisherman, the ready, fire, aim guy? He says, I won't leave you. I won't deny you. I'll be with you even until death. And Jesus is like, no, you're going to disown me. So on the heels of Jesus arresting and accusing, Jesus admitting that he was the Son of God who became the Son of Man to seek and save the lost, he went before the Sanhedrin. They were calling out blasphemy, counted him worthy of death, and basically were sentencing him. And Peter was just kind of lurking and kind of watching and kind of observing everything that was going on. And then someone said to him, hey, you were with that Jesus person, weren't you? And he said, no, not me. I wasn't me. Someone else said, yeah, I think I saw you with him. No, I don't even know that man. Of course you were. Your accent gives you away. You were with Jesus. No, I don't know the man. And then the rooster crowed, and he was reminded that even though he had this incredible boldness for Jesus and what he was saying, he had this incredible brokenness as a result of what he was doing. He denied Jesus when he said he'd be with him even until death. But he didn't, because he couldn't. Cause for whatever reason. Was he not smart enough? Was he not strong enough? Was he not courageous enough? Was he not this enough? Was he not that enough? I don't know the reason, but he arrived in this place of brokenness. And on the heels of this scripture, it talks about someone else who was in a place of brokenness. And it was Judas, who also denied Jesus, who betrayed Jesus. But Judas in his brokenness didn't get out of it. He wasn't reminded that God's omni-everything. He wasn't reminded that God is protector, sustainer, and deliverer, and that God loves him because he loves him because he loves him. Judas wasn't reminded of those things. He just couldn't get over the brokenness, and his brokenness ultimately destroyed him. But Peter and David, and by the grace of God, Brian, and some of the other people in this room, by the grace of God, we were reminded of who God was and what God does, and that he forgives, and that he has mercy, and his grace that's so abounding covers over the things that bring about our brokenness. And it is in that time that we need to look to him, our refuge strong. In Psalm 9, David communicates this: the Lord is a refuge for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. Those who know your name trust in you, for you, Lord, have never forsaken those who seek you. And that's the whole point of that 2 Chronicles thing that communicates. Sometimes to bring about this closeness with God, God will bring distress. And that's okay. We can learn a lot about God through Bible studies and through church and through camp and all these other things. But one of the DTS professors, one of my favorite guys, said this: you show me a Christian who hasn't suffered, and I'll show you a spiritual wimp. It's in those times of suffering where we meet the Lord and seek the Lord in unprecedented ways, because we've arrived in this place of unprecedented brokenness. A quote from Jeremy Treat says this: in the darkness of depression, God is our hope. In the difficulty of transition, God is our constant. In the frailness of old age, God is our strength. God isn't waiting for us on the other side of suffering. He meets us in it. Because he wants to bring about something in you, something from you that wouldn't have otherwise been there without this brokenness that you guys are feeling right now, that you guys are experiencing right now, that you guys are remembering right now, or that you guys will encounter in the days, weeks, months, years to come. And so it is to that brokenness that we want to spend a little bit of time in these small groups today. You guys have awesome small group leaders. I hope that you get to hear their story. You're going to get to hear their story on the testimonies. You've already heard a little bit. Like I said, I was so impacted by David's testimony that I asked him a little bit more about it, and was really thankful for what the Lord did in the unity between me and him through the time of sharing with him. And I'm hopeful that you guys will have that same unity with your leaders this week and with each other. Be bold and share. Even if you're not comfortable sharing in a small group setting, get over that. Just for this week, get over that. So you guys can have this honesty and have this growth that would result from that time of sharing. So I'm going to pray for you guys, and then we'll be good. God, it's weird to pray and thank you for brokenness, but that's what I'm doing right now. It's weird to thank you for distress. But I pray that we can be courageous enough to thank you for distress. I pray for courage, God, to be honest with where we're at, really, and not just cover over it with other things, that we can embrace our weakness, not just quickly turn the page to our strengths. Pray that we can do that in this small group time and find ourselves as a result really hanging on this truth that even though we're in this broken place, that you deliver, that you sustain, that you protect, and that as a result, we have hope, even though it might be crushed at the time of our brokenness, that we have hope. So I pray that for that transformation that I prayed for at the beginning of the week, that transformation will be ushered in now in this time, and that it would be for your glory. In the name of Jesus, our Savior. Amen. All right, small groups. I also have cards up here. If you want to grab a card,